Okay, back to today's topic. All things cannabis, the history, beneficial users, and of course, buyers beware. We've brought in a special guest, Dean Camfferman, here on my right, who's an expert on all things health supplements, cannabis related, and he owns Surrey Natural Foods on King George and 108 in Surrey, British Columbia. So you may also contact him. So this morning, I think it's very important to find out why all this excitement that is being created around cannabis. If you took the history, 100 years ago, cannabis was widely available. Farmers had their own cannabis patch. They were making food products with it for their animals, for themselves. And so it was common that you'd find it everywhere. And we know that hemp has many uses as well. Hemp rope, paper was made from it, clothing, sails, multiple things that was quite common to be found made from hemp. And by the way, it's very, very durable. And so from an economic standpoint, it was, really, really good. But other interest came into being who did not like the fact of the many uses of hemp and wanted to curtail that. And some of you might be familiar and heard about the Hearst Empire. They were a great big newspaper chain at one day. And their interest was they also owned an awful lot of forests. And of course, what do we know that makes paper? It's wood cellulite. And so therefore, they saw hemp in general as competition. So being a newspaper chain, they had the ability to create fake news, of course. So fake news is nothing new. It's been around for a long time. And they created all kinds of stories around cannabis, marijuana, and headlines like Reefer Madness was continuously being published. And so that the use of cannabis, smoking it, ingesting it, eating it, whatever, was going to make you mad, okay? And the word local was, I guess there were a lot of Mexicans coming in who were quite used to utilizing cannabis as their, traditional product and so on. So this is where the journey began by removing the cannabis from the market and disabling the farmers that were growing it to take them out. So essentially they established an act, I think it was 1937, and by it they tried to cause the product to have to be legalized, okay? So of course then the whole legal profession, laws were being introduced, and little by little this was then being slipped in, as they do so often with things that if they want to get rid of it or they want to take things away. So they issued permits to farmers if they wish to continue growing their hemp, even if it was for their own personal use and for their animals. But they were tricked because in the areas every year there was an inspector coming around or some agency that would supposedly bring in the applications for their permits. And what eventually ended up happening when they put this enforcement in, the applications weren't made available, and there was excuses being used to say, oh, something happened to the printing. Anyway, so this happened for a number of years in a row. So if you were a farmer, you would have then have this piece of property that's not being utilized. So afterwards was a natural sequence. Farmers started growing different things on it. So this is how slowly the use of hemp products in general was then being eliminated. However, there were some great needs, and we know we have rope and sails, and even in the armed forces, they were using it into boots and all that. So Second World War breaks out, and nobody was growing the hemp in the United States at that point, and they had to import it for their war machine, okay, because they needed it for their ropes and for their boots. So they were importing it through from the Philippines, but of course their enemy, the Japanese at that time, were sinking a lot of their ships, so they were not getting sufficient amount of hemp products into North America, so they are running short. So what they end up doing is allowing the farmers to get back into growing it for a while. At the end of the war, the same game was being played. Applications for permits were not being issued. And so there we have it. This is how it got taken out. And of course, then the whole thing got criminalized. But we know that in recent years, so much more news has come out how beneficial it is in the use as a medicinal product, as well as a food product. So some of you perhaps have been already eating hemp seeds, hemp nuts, and consuming hemp oil. And now the big to-do is we're being phased in to the cannabis products that are going to be used medicinally for health purposes. So Dean is an expert on it. He's done a lot of research. I've done some of my research, and we brought in a number of different products, and we're going to touch on some of these things. What we're also going to do is, you're familiar from my previous videos with the wands, and how we will then quantify things is whatever can be measured, can be managed. So we're going to take the DNA of the person, and then we're going to hand them the products, and we're going to measure different products. And the reason why we want to be doing all this is that there is a buyer's beware. As I do an awful lot of testing with people and their products, be surprised how many people are using cannabis-based products today. These are available, internet, and so on. And so we're not here selling products, okay? Just want to be clear of it. We're not making any claims. We're just sharing information by which these things are available and some of the uses. And as you're jumping on board, perhaps want to make decisions whether this is good for you, that's your own personal decision, we can also measure it. So again, whatever can be measured can be managed. So we're going to show you a range of these products, and then you're going to see which works for you, which perhaps might not work for you. So go ahead, Dean.
Okay, Richard. Well, thank you. As far as being an expert on this topic, Richard, I would not claim to be an expert at all.
He's just being humble.
I am learning as we go along. I've been doing a lot of studying and watching videos, and just like you folks out there right now are listening to us and hopefully going to be picking up some information as well. So yes, this topic of cannabis is very timely, of course, because now we are we're seeing recreational cannabis being available in July, but it'll take time for that to all come to pass. Then there's the whole edible aspect as well, and that won't be coming on stream until next year, 2019. So meanwhile, we sit in this gray zone waiting and waiting for what's going to happen, but many people have already been, well, as Richard, as you pointed out, this has been used by people for decades. I mean, if you go back in the history of cannabis, it goes back thousands of years.
Exactly.
I even did a little research on the word cannabis, and I like the word cannabis for the simple reason that that describes the plant. And this plant has, we could say, 3 varieties. There's the cannabis sativa, the cannabis indica, and then there's a very little known one called the cannabis. It starts with an R, and I can't even remember it. It's that uncommon. Oh. But it's typically used to support hybridization of the other 2 ones. So it doesn't have a lot of benefit in itself. In fact, it has a 3 leaf. You know, the cannabis typical leaf, it has 5. It's a 5 palmate, it's called, like the palm, 5 leaves to it. But that particular one only has 3. But it is very useful in using it for breeding the other ones, for breeding other varieties. For the simple reason it tends to grow further north, and it has a shorter season, so it has to produce its flowers much more quickly. So that's just a little bit of background about the plant itself. It has, even the names are somewhat, there's really no technical or scientific reason to call one sativa and the other indica, but it's just to differentiate where these ones come from. Indica it came from the area of India, hence indica. And sativa is more from a European and North American strain. So what about this plant? I mean, it's just an amazing plant, Richard. The more that I read up on it and study and learn about it, the more amazed I am. And you pointed out so many different uses for this plant. You can make clothing from it. You can make ropes from the industrial hemp. Now, industrial hemp, you could smoke a ton of it and you wouldn't feel a thing because the THC and CBD levels are extremely low. And it's the same with the food component. Hemp or cannabis that is used for food, for culinary purposes, is also very low in THC and CBD. But then we have our varieties that have high levels of THC and CBD, and those are the ones that are really the medicinal ones.
Okay.
And when we speak of medicinal, it's amazing. You know, cannabis has something called cannabinoids. And just like there are opioids and cannabinoids, that OID indicates some kind of a chemical, organic chemical that reacts with the human body. Now, interestingly enough, our bodies have receptors. They have opioid receptors in the cells and cannabinoid receptors as well. So when we ingest either of these components, they affect us directly. Now, how do they affect us? Well, some of them work to reduce pain. Did you know that there are cannabinoids in mother's breast milk?
Really? Wow.
Absolutely. So when that little baby is drinking milk from her or his mother, do you know why they fall asleep?
Exactly.
We think it's because of that. The cannabinoids cause the child to fall asleep. So to demonize these plants is ridiculous to the uttermost, because our human bodies actually interact with these plants at a high level. Now, in the medical side of things, Western medicine has gone to the opioids in order to use them for reducing pain, but they are extremely addictive. And so what you get, and of course I guess they probably think in this way, is that, okay, if we have them addicted, we're going to have a customer for life, right? That's my opinion on the matter. Right. Whereas with cannabis, it is really not addicting. It is addicting in the sense that it works, it makes you relax. So just as people drink alcohol in order to relax and to feel a little happier, cannabis does the same thing. But
stress management.
It's a wonderful way of managing your stress. Yes. Now, unfortunately, alcohol is much more toxic than cannabis. Right. And yet we've had alcohol available for decades, right? And it is not as healthy for us as cannabis. So, I don't know if this would be if you want to just jump in and ask me a question to steer me in any direction.
Sure, we actually have one of the audience ask for a question for you.
Yes.
And do you think cannabis today is the same quality as it is in the past?
Oh, good question, whoever you are. I love that. In my early teens, my late teens and my early 20s in high school, that's when I began to experiment with cannabis. And I smoked it, and eventually I just got headaches. So I had to stop because I was getting headaches. I don't know why. To this day, I don't know why that happened. But definitely the answer is the cannabis we have today, the THC and CBD levels are far higher than they were back in my youth. And I'm a young fellow of 66 years age.
Me too.
So basically, they have been hybridizing and breeding for specific things, and that is to increase the THC content and the CBD content. And in doing so, it becomes that much more potent. Now, let me just say a word about these two terms, THC and CBD, okay? THC, tetrahydro something or other, it's a little bit of a long word that I haven't written it out, so I can't pronounce it correctly, is primarily psychoactive. In other words, it reacts with the mind, with the brain, and induces a kind of euphoria. Now, I love that word, euphoria, right? There's a lot of things that make a person feel euphoric. There we go. For example, if you're a hockey fan and you're following, your favorite hockey team, when they score and you're jumping up out of your seat, that's euphoria, right?
Endorphins.
Endorphins are brought into play. Yes. So cannabis will do the same thing. It creates a state of euphoria or relaxation. Right. Now, here's something very interesting. If you go through the history of various civilizations, almost all of them have a specific plant that they used in their ceremonies as they gather together. For example, the Hopi Indians, I believe it was, in the southern U.S., they used the little mushroom, right?
Right.
Which I can't even remember what it's called exactly, but that was part of their ceremony. And as I was reading through some of these different literature about these matters, I came to the realization, when you live with a group of people, right? Take, for example, my family. God bless them all. I love them, but sometimes they drive me nuts. So then I need a reset. So I would love to get them all together and say, let's just have a cup of tea with some cannabis in it. And what that does is it just gets everybody off of their rocker, off of their high chair, gets everybody to relax, and it really resets the family dynamic. And I believe that's how our traditional forefathers used various things, such as alcohol, etc., in order to just do a reset so that we can start all over again. So these types of medicines, and getting back to cannabis, it has this wonderful feature, right? That it will work that way as far as our mind is concerned. Now the CBD, which is cannabidiol, actually works on the body. It reduces pain. It's a wonderful pain alleviator, far superior to opioids, particularly the opioids that are now killing our fellow human beings by the thousands, if not the hundreds of thousands.
It's criminal.
It is criminal.
Yeah.
And where did that all come from? You guessed it. And I'm not going to, go down that rabbit hole because I just get too angry. Now, when we use cannabis, you never hear of a fight breaking out, with a couple of stoners sitting around, right? What happens when they smoke too much? They fall asleep. That's what happens. Nobody gets robbed, nobody gets raped, nothing happens in that sense, except the dude falls asleep and wakes up the next morning wondering what happened. Okay. We don't have to go take it all that route. And this is the picture that, those who are opposed to this plant like to paint, that it's a bunch of stoners sitting around and smoking themselves into oblivion. Well, guess what, folks? Even if they did that, they did no harm to their body. They did no, and there is this thing about, as children are growing up, if they're using cannabis or weed or marijuana, it arrests the development of their brain. There may be some truth to that, but I would have a big question mark about it. At least we can say with great assurance that as we mature into our 20s, and 18 is kind of the transitional point from teenage years to the adult years, when the brain is no longer expanding, physically at least.
Figured age 21 or 22 is when the brain finished expanding.
Yeah, right? That sounds about right. So there's no problem. Right? And by then you're starting to become an uptight member of society, right? So it's a good idea to find some method to chill. Now, Richard, you mentioned endorphins, right? That's really what we're doing, is the body creates endorphins. And the endorphin is that feel-good molecule produced by the body in order to bring us into a state of relaxation. You can accomplish that by meditating. You can accomplish that by praying. You can accomplish that by sitting down with your good old friend and having a heart-to-heart talk, right? Like right now, I'm getting some endorphins right now, because this is really, you're passionate about this topic. I'm passionate about this topic. We want to help the people out there to make an educated choice and learn how to cut through all the BS and get to what the real truth. Not even the real truth, because there's just truth. There's not such a thing as real truth. What the truth is. Truth is truth.
Yes.
Truth is absolute.
Yes. And it leads you to more truth.
Exactly.
So, one more question. They ask, what's the best method to use cannabis? Or what's the healthiest way? So I'll just tell you how I feel personally.
Sure.
I know if I smoke certain things and it doesn't agree with my lungs, it makes me cough.
Yeah.
And so I like to use things sublingual.
Yes.
Because sublingual gets immediately into the bloodstream, bypasses digestion, liver, and so on. So to me, that's one of the quickest ways of using. But what do you think?
Well, basically, it depends what you're trying to do. If you, when we take in this product through the lungs, that produces a very quick reaction. Within a few minutes, we can feel the result. And the advantage to that is you can moderate the amount that you use.
Right.
There's a lot of people that just want to relax a little bit. So maybe just one pull on a vaping pen, for example, is all they need to relax. Or if they need more, then they can just use more. So burning it or smoking it is, in my opinion, is the fastest way to get the result that you're looking for. When you ingest it and it has to go through the entire digestive tract, guess what? It takes 45 minutes to an hour to kick in, all right? And if you haven't been using it before, it's going to take a while even for your body's cannabinoid receptors to start recognizing and be activated. Yes. Exactly. So that's another option, is using it orally, taking it orally. And if you swallow it, obviously it has to go through the entire digestive system. Then, as you pointed out, Richard, if you put it under the tongue in the form of a tincture, right, a liquid form. So that's where we take the extract of the plant and put it in maybe like MCT oil, some coconut oil or something like that, put it under the tongue, hold it there for 30 seconds. It will begin to be absorbed into the bloodstream that way. But Richard, there's an other way that's very effective.
The other side.
The other end, exactly.
The lower end.
The lower end.
So what's above is below.
Coming in through the back door has its advantages because especially if you're using it to modulate or moderate pain or deal with illness such as cancer, for example, we need to get massive amounts of this healing medicine into our body. And what a lot of people do is they'll make a suppository, right? A suppository is a chunk of frozen cannabis, or not necessarily frozen, but put into a capsule and then inserted up the rectum and left there. It then passes through the gut and into the bloodstream very quickly without going through the liver. So the liver doesn't have to process anything. It's immediate and it's very effective. I have to tell you, I've never done it. This is just what I've heard and what I've studied and read about. So there's lots of different ways. And not only that, there are salves, S-A-L-V-E, salves that you can apply topically. Yes. So this wonderful product can be absorbed many different ways.
And we see even in a lot of different medication forms that people putting things on topically.
Yes.
Again, most people have compromised digestive systems. They got issues with the liver. And so if you can't burden those two areas, so certainly sublingual, rectal, topical, or even smoking it, but if your lungs can't absorb that well, then so there's many different options. So what we're sharing here is just showing and telling you about the options that we know of, and maybe there's more going to be developed over time.
Absolutely.
Different applications, as we see with the many different products that are coming out.
Yeah.
And so we're not prescribing anything. We're just sharing information, stuff that we've researched, so certain things that maybe we've experienced here in the past.
Yes.
And it's a huge shift that is happening in the awareness, and you see people from all different ages, different professions. So it's not people who are familiar with in the past. They're calling them drug addicts, or this is the gateway to your addictive behavior.
The gateway drug. What bullshit. Excuse
so
my
they
language.
criminalized that, and society has conditioned us and planted guilt around cannabis. Okay. So it's about correcting your mindset. So if you're uneasy about this subject, and that's what we want to bring things out here as well, right? Just like open your mind, open your heart, open your eyes, start observing and questioning, because questions are the answers. And hey, it might be for you, and maybe it's not for you, but it may be for someone else. And if someone else is using, we tend to come down in judgment on people. Oh, look what he's doing, and he shouldn't be doing this, because we've got our own opinions. So what we're basically saying, hey, when we are born, we came into this world ignorant, and that simply means without knowing. Okay, so if we're without knowing on this subject, educate yourself. Okay, outside of perhaps what I said in the days when they tried to remove it in the newspapers, a lot of fake news, right? They try to, discredit the people and demonize them and so on. Let's take away the demons, okay? Too many things are being demonized, and like I say, guilt is being put on people. And let's become free, okay? And when we become free and we clear our minds and clear these things, then all of a sudden, again, I always say, nature is your best friend, okay? We are nature. Everything around us is nature. Use nature. As soon as we start messing with things, then we can make things more complicated, and we can perhaps do more harm than with these things. So the other thing that is, as with many forms of products are being introduced, we would certainly also, there is a buyer beware, because as you're aware, I test many things with my wands, and I get people, I do their complete nutritional profiles and look at from an energetic perspective. And one of the things is perhaps 30 to 50% of some of the products that people pay a good price for actually don't read very well. Because like typically any industry, and this being agricultural based, there is always the use of chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and fungicides tend to be the big one. Yeah. And I was sharing this and asking the questions with the fellow that sets up these grow rooms and so on, and he did mention that there were 3 typical, I don't have the names, of fungicides that they have. Now you got to remember, when they are using chemicals or anything with the word "ides," means it can be cancer causing.
Right.
Okay? Pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, okay? These could be cancer causing substances. So here's where the buyer beware, okay? Because people are jumping on board and they're wanting to use this because of a cancer issue perhaps, and then you're using a great product, nature's healer, but it's now being, sorry to use the word, but it's being bastardized because we've introduced chemicals into it, like fungicides, okay? So we're creating, we want to use something good, but what is the biggest cause behind cancer? It tends to be more and more, it's all the chemicalization. We're using so many chemical-based products, okay? We eat it, we put it on topically, we inhale it, whatever. All these chemicals that are brought on, the statistics of cancer rates keep on rising and so on. So many factors contributing. So you want to obtain and you want to use pure, properly processed. So even in the grow operations, if that happens to be done correctly, then they also have extraction processes to make these different products. And in the extraction process, they can use certain types of perhaps alcohols, whatever, to get the oils out, the effective components. And in so doing it, they can actually also kill the goodness of what we're expecting to have. And I know people have paid big money for some of these products, thinking they're going to help them, and they're not doing anything for them. So in this next phase that we're going to do is we're going to actually measure this. We're going to use my wand. We're going to use Jackie's DNA, and we're going to put these products in hand. And you're going to see products are good. Products are going to be great. Okay, and we're not outside, so we have limited space. But then you also see products that somehow are affecting you negatively. Okay, so and it's because again, everything being energy, we can base it on the energy component. So if the energy is gone, so if something is good, life gives life. We're talking about life force, okay? So we have our own bioenergy field, our life force, and then anything we bring into us, whether we bring it in, on, or near our bodies, can affect us energetically. So we're going to have this illustration, okay? There is the good, there is the bad, and there could be the ugly, and we just want you to make you aware of it. And should you become a serious researcher, or a serious user of a particular line of products, we can facilitate the testing for you. And we can do this even remotely. Email me a photograph of yourself and describe maybe by label, source, the products that you're going to be using. And I can give you a reading on that, whether that's going to help you or not. Okay, so with that, we're going to move into stage 2. We're going to
before we do,
yes.
Could I say one more thing, please?
Yes, absolutely.
The reason I'm here, folks, is because I'm passionate about health. I own a health food store, and I've been researching and learning about all the wonderful products that are available. And I recently began to get interested in cannabis to see what its medicinal qualities are. And I discovered and am discovering that it has tremendous qualities, tremendous capacity to help our bodies heal themselves. As a treatment for cancer, it has tremendous ability. So I'm looking forward to the day when I can have these products available in my health food store. Unfortunately, at this point, it's still not in a legal situation where I can, but I certainly want to help people with the information, and we know that it's available, widely available out there, so it's not that hard to find, but again, we don't know what we're getting. And I can assure you that properly used and properly dosed, cannabis is your friend. It is not a gateway drug into the netherworlds. It is actually your friend, if I could say it in that way. And what we need to do is find out the truth and learn how to use it and apply it to our own situation.
Exactly. And so, because of the level of interest, big money, we're talking there's now investment funds that are geared, billions and billions of dollars are being raised in the stock market to go after it. So it's nothing wrong. We all need to make money and create wealth, and I think I'm all for it. But sometimes it's for the love of money. And there's a lot of ma and pa operations in producing product and even growing this. And of course, the big boys who are looking at it, even the Bayer Monsanto people who really want to capitalize this all and want to take over. Okay, look at their history. Okay, they've been producing all these harmful things. You think that they really care that much? This is big business. So for me, I love to basically, promote ma and pa operations, right? Who really truly have a passion of doing the right thing, okay? And of course, there are people there too that are for greed. Greed tends to run a lot of things out there. So hopefully, anyways, you found this of some interest, and if we can help you in any way, shape, or form, send us questions, okay? If we can't answer them for you today, we'll try to get back to you on that. And we're gonna move into the next stage here, and we're gonna test some of these products for you.
Great.
Again, to set this up with my magic wands, as some people call them, and we're going to collect Jackie's DNA again. Okay, 2 Q-tips, and she's going to donate some saliva.
As per usual.
As per usual,
again.
yeah. Does a great job at this.
I'm standing and holding.
She's a
things.
professional.
I'm an expert.
Okay, so once again, we inserted those in my wands, my guns as I call them, and because it's got her DNA on that, so when I point it to Jackie, it stays pointing to her. Just walk sideways again. Once again, you can see the move. Okay, there it is. So it's always focused to her. Like every radio station has its own frequency. Every person has through their DNA has their own frequency. Pointed to Dean over here, it's not his. Pointed to the cameraman, not his. So it says, no, these are not the people. Pointed back at Jackie, yes, we have it. So Jackie, step back. And so we're going to determine, first of all, where her energy field is. And Jackie wearing her jacket, and it's got the zipper effect and everything else. So this is how big her energy field is, okay? It's the aura right around. So I'm in her energy field. This, as it opens up, is the edge of her energy field. So whatever we put in, on, near our bodies has an energy component to it. So we're going to test all kinds of samples here, okay? So this is all pure plant-based stuff, okay? All right, just go ahead.
So what we have here are some buds.
All right, buds.
Plant buds. And let's see how this works.
All right, so this was her energy field before, where it would open up like that. But because she's holding that, and it's given her life force, okay, so everything contains life force, or it should, if we're consuming that, and we can well go to the edge of the room and further, okay? So there's life force behind it. And if we were to do this outside, as you might see on our other videos, we can actually create the differences with the drone from above. Okay, so there's another one. And what's that?
Grapefruit.
What's it called?
Grapefruit.
Grapefruit. Oh, wow.
So this is just a strain?
Yes. This is
Okay,
a
so it's a little less than the other, okay? But again, if we look at and analyze and look at the labels, the components of THC versus CBDs are different ratios, okay?
Do you know
That's
what
called
this is?
tuna.
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 All
I
right.
think tuna is quite popular, and you can see again with tuna, it's got a good range in this room.
It's quite pungent.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then we have this other plant-based one here too.
This is called UBC chemo.
UBC chemo. All right.
100% indica.
Huh. Look at that. This is very powerful. I can just feel that. My body just gets so adjusted to doing this all the time. I can feel the energy from that.
So this is probably the best one, Richard,
I
right?
would think so, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
UBC chemo, 100% indica.
All right.
Shall we do some edibles?
Sure, let's do some edibles.
Okay, here's some candy.
All right, some candy. Candy's dandy, they say. I think this one is.
I really like candy in general. So
Yeah.
this is probably-
It's the candy that might be more addictive.
yeah.
And I'm the candy man.
Yeah. Dean is the candy man.
Okay, now
Right.
we're going to try honey. This is an
there's some
extract in honey.
So, and you know, honey has a lot of, it's on its own medicinal components too, if it's good and raw. And again, this is great honey, lots and lots of energy. So it's got a sweetness to it and a great
All
taste.
right.
Okay, so you can see in many different forms you can add it.
Oh,
All right.
we have some brownies here.
Brownies, famous brownies. Good stuff. Lots and lots and lots of energy in that too.
Okay.
So if you get the munchies, just eat more of it.
So what would be the benefits of eating an edible like that?
It gets into your system more slowly, and it lasts a lot longer in your system.
As it's digesting. So
Yes.
the
So-
release, time released almost.
Yeah. It may last 4 to 8 hours, as opposed to maybe 2 hours if you smoke it.
Ah, okay.
So we have some pretzels even there.
Yeah.
Somebody made some pretzels. So the imagination by which you can create your own products is pretty amazing. So these pretzels are
Pretzels are good.
Pretzels are
All
good.
right.
Yeah. So far we've seen some great products there.
Okay, now we can go. Here's an edible. This is organic coconut oil, cannabis infused organic coconut oil.
Okay. So this is kind of neutral. It's not a whole lot more energy, and it might be the amount that is used in there, but it's still on the positive side. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's test those 4 little jars there.
Now we have some capsules.
Right.
Some
Okay.
different combinations of CBD and THC.
Okay.
So let's just take one here and see how this one does.
So she's holding that, and again, but the energy here isn't very good.
And
Okay.
what is this? This is
CBD,
CBD.
that particular one, yeah.
So it becomes kind of questionable in terms of what was the source, how was it grown, or how was it extracted. There's a negative component to this because it
Yeah.
collapses your energy, right?
So
Yeah.
does this have to do with me individually, or is this just actually speaking about
What
the
you'll
product?
probably find is that if we test it with other people, anything that responds that harsh, like snap all the way to your field, is more than likely, I would say 90% plus going to do the same thing for most other people.
Yeah.
Okay?
Let's take a CBD in a roll-on. So it's the same manufacturer, but a different. Let's see how this one does.
See, it's a little bit less, but
But
still, you know, it's better than the other one, okay? But not as effective of anything else we've tested so far.
I would
Okay.
be curious to test if I actually had like a headache or cramps or something,
sure.
and then
Yeah.
I was holding that, if it would expand because
Yeah.
I had something specific I needed it for.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I'm curious to see.
Yes.
And you know what? Over time, we're going to do more and more testing, and we're going to share this with the people. This is sort of a first-time thing we thought about. Great subject, great interest.
Here's a blend of THC and CBD, 10 to 10, 10 milligrams of each.
It's weak, so definitely it's weak.
So
Now,
we're not-
I will have to say this, that depending if it's capsulated, so sometimes people can have good products, but they use poor capsules, okay? And if it's not a vegetable-based capsule, that can really have an effect as well on the reading. Okay.
So our
All right.
capsules aren't doing too well, Richard, at the moment.
No.
Okay, now we're going to use a THC only, 10 milligram.
No.
That's a definite no.
Interesting.
That's a definite no.
And now we will try a 5 and 5, 5 THC to 5 CBD.
Once again, no.
Yeah.
I kind of think it's probably has to do, again, knowing that they are using fungicides in these operations because it tends to be prone to develop funguses, okay? And so this is something buyer beware, right? So
Yeah.
just not all products are made equal.
We didn't try the...
Yeah, sure.
So let's try olive oil. Cannabis-infused organic olive oil.
Okay, there you are. It's okay.
A little bit.
A little bit
Yep.
there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it knows I can't cook.
Do you want to try these?
Yeah, sure.
What are they? What's this one here?
Okay,
Richard?
that's a sleep product.
A sleep product, okay.
Yeah. It's mixed with an alcohol, so if you got sleeping issues, so you can see that that's kind of positive that way. And that one in that little here,
one,
that's
yeah.
kind of like a resin. Like you literally can just use a grain, like size of a grain, and put it under your tongue, and it's very powerful, even in small quantities. Okay, it's very, very powerful. So, and so you don't have to use a lot of it.
Now I've got a vape pen here with a cartridge of THC. Let's see how that one does.
That one. So using a vape pen with the right product, again, not just any product, combination can be good.
Do you want to ask her the questions? Is this good for me? Or
You can ask a question. If this should I use this this method? Is this good for me?
Is this method good for me?
No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Jackie shouldn't be smoking it.
okay,
Not
Jackie.
this way, anyways. All right. Or this combination of.
How
things.
about this one?
Sure. Go ahead, ask.
So should I be ingesting this?
Yes.
Yes.
It's agreeable for you.
Interesting.
And this was the...
Wrap it up. Oh, okay. We got just very limited time now. So, by the way, so you saw what we were doing here today. Forward us any kind of comments, any questions, and please, once again, share it with your company. Come on over here, Dean, and we're going to say goodbye. Thank you for being here with us this morning. Have a great day. Bye now.
Bye-bye.